but welcome to Money for Your Movie Guaranteed. Thanks for joining us today as we focus on the challenges, and there are many, of raising the financing for your movie projects. My name is Bob McCullough. My background is primarily as a writer, producer, and showrunner. A while back, I met one of the, he's going to be embarrassed, but one of the most impressive people I've ever met in the film and television business. That's Mark Stouffer. That's the guy you see on the other side of the screen here. Mark is the guy, remarkably enough, who has built a proven bulletproof system for raising film financing and at the same time making sure there are always profits for him at the end of the movie making rainbow. He has a big time reputation for his Wild America TV series and his feature motion picture work with National Geographic, for which he's won a couple of amazing awards like Emmys, a Directors Guild of America award. He quite amazingly generated video sales of $57 million. And he's won more than 70 international film awards for nearly a dozen movies, all of which he financed completely on his own with what he calls his 7-step system.
Hey, Bob, that's all very true, but enough about me. As you say, it's a little embarrassing. Let's get down to talking about how everyone here can do what I've done and raise financing for their own films.
Okay, but before we get into your actual process, would you please just take a minute and tell everybody here how you managed to go from being another guy wanting to make a movie to where you are today? You must have started out with a lot of Hollywood connections, right?
Oh, I had tons of Hollywood connections. I was from Fort Smith, Arkansas. I had zero connections. When I started, I was just like every other frustrated filmmaker. I was spending a lot of time waiting for other people, producers, directors, studio executives to give me permission to pursue my dreams and to make my movies. I had the exact same fundamental problem faced by anyone with the dream of turning a script into a finished film. I needed the money to rent equipment, hire a crew, find locations, hire actors, all the stuff it takes to actually make a movie.
Well, there's no doubt that making any movie, particularly a quality movie, but even if you shoot a short on a smartphone, making a movie can get pretty expensive very quickly.
Exactly right. Eventually, I realized that if I wanted to shoot my own film, if I wanted to give myself the green light to produce and direct the movie that I wanted to make, it was completely up to me to find the money to do it. You see, you can spend years, I have spent years waiting for an agent or a producer or some studio executive to get around to making a decision on your project. That's a lot of valuable time during which you could and should be actually making your movie and getting ready to make your second and your third films.
So what you're saying is that a new filmmaker shouldn't be worried about making a big deal at a studio?
Well, if you do, you'll be dealing with studios or networks or their creative accounting that has a strange and very consistent way of making your profits disappear, leaving you with nothing.
Yeah, no kidding. We've all heard those horror stories. I actually read an article recently that said some of the profit participants in Jim Cameron's, the big movie of his career was Titanic. Profit participants still haven't seen a dime because just somehow the studio books show the movie as a financial loss. And just last week, I read in Hollywood Reporter, Sylvester Stallone not only lost the rights to all of his Rocky movies, he's not even a profit participant in the character that he created.
Which is why I have avoided studio funding, network funding for most all of my films.
But when you take money from investors, you must come up against all kinds of government regulations, right?
Before, yes. 9 years ago, in 2013, Congress changed the rules about raising investment capital. Before then, it was all about dealing with the very strict regulations of the Securities Exchange Commission. Now, you can go raise money from anyone willing to participate in funding a movie. Wall Street refers to these people as non-accredited investors. Basically, people just like you and me, Bob, people like your friends and families. I mean, we're not talking about whales or hedge fund managers here, just regular people.
Okay, so you mentioned friends and family. How about getting your friends and family to finance your movie, to chip in?
If you want to make a feature motion picture on whatever level and make real money in the process of doing it, it honestly takes more money than you should ever try to squeeze out of your friends and family. Besides, that kind of seed money will quickly be gone paying for random expenses like office rental, phone bills, lunch meetings, as you go out and try to raise the rest of the money that you need.
Okay, but okay, that's I mean, I believe you, but so then where do you actually find the money?
You go out and find regular people, what I call private investors, people that don't get approached with deals every day, but they have cash on hand, cash they want to put to work with a chance of making more money in return. Private investors aren't they're very eager to hear about your movie plans, and they never wonder why you're not going after other sources of financing.
So what you're saying then is that finding these private investors really becomes kind of a personal thing.
You absolutely need to be willing to get up close and personal with the people who are financing your film.
But once they've committed to you, don't you have to worry about repaying these people at some point?
Well, remember, a private investment isn't a loan at all. You don't pay it back. Like any investment, there's an element of risk. Like everyone knows, investing in movies is notoriously risky. And our job as filmmakers is to help the investor understand the risks and then help them take the risk. You do that by getting people to share your vision and your belief in your project.
So to do that, there has to be an element of sales psychology there.
You cannot control your investor. The only psychology that you can control is your own. Overselling an investor is a complete turnoff to an investor. So I only focus on what I can personally control.
So Mark, I know you focus on 7 key principles in your strategy. Would you mind going through each of them for everybody?
I will, and I will go through all 7 of them. They're all about me. They aren't the investor. I focus on 7 things because there's 7 things that are within my control, and they're essential if you want to. The first thing is self-confidence. If you are not convinced that your movie is a winner, why should anyone else believe in it? You need to honestly believe in your project before anyone else ever will. Number 2, enthusiasm. You'll need energy, and you're going to need plenty of it to get your film made, and you need to enjoy the whole process. Yes, it's work, but again, if you believe in your project, like I believe in the projects I promote and raise money for, the work itself actually becomes productive and a lot of fun. It does. It becomes a fun process. You feel like you're in control. Item 3 is persistence. Very important. Once you start this process, quitting is not an option. Keep the image of yourself succeeding in your mind every day. Wake up knowing that you're going to be standing on your movie set, producing or directing your project one day. I even draw little stupid pictures of myself behind the camera, directing people, and there's the actors out there. And those pictures are roadmaps for yourself of what you plan to accomplish. Preparation, do your homework. Make sure that your script is bulletproof and that your production plans are rock solid before you start telling the world about them. Number 5, integrity. Another word for that is honesty. Raising film financing, it isn't a hustle or a scam, and you can't come off that way. You'll be working with other people's money, so you better be completely honest about every dollar. Number 6, attention to detail, and there's a lot of details. You won't be able to skip any steps. You won't be able to take shortcuts or deal in generalities. Sloppy work just won't work. Number 7, good communication, of course, and a call to action. You must be able to deliver your message clearly and honestly to your investor. Then you must be able to very clearly ask them for the money.
Wow, you said 7, and I was writing these down as you went through them. You really hit it on the head. So you really know your system pretty well, but you make it sound kind of easy, Mark.
I never would tell you or anyone that it's easy, because it isn't. I'm no smooth talking pitch man, and I'm certainly not a financial genius. I'm just a determined guy who loves making movies.
Well, it's pretty, yeah, no kidding. It's pretty obvious you're determined. Just look at your track record. And I invite everybody to go to IMDb and check out Mark Stouffer. So you really have to wear a bunch of different hats to get things going, don't you? I mean, even after you've written your great script, right?
Well, absolutely. No matter how great of a writer or director you might be, you first have to be a business person. That sounds a little boring, but that's what you have to be.
Well, that makes sense. You know, the old cliche in Hollywood is certainly true. Making movies isn't about show art, it's about show business, right?
Right, exactly. Turning your idea for a movie into an actual movie is a business, and you'll be doing just that. You'll be starting a business.
But, you know, for people that don't have a business background like me, that can sound pretty intimidating to a lot of folks.
It doesn't have to be at all like that. Like I said, I'm not an accountant, and I wasn't a business major in college, but I do keep a couple of core principles in mind. The most important one is to just take one step at a time. Don't try to do everything at once. It's overwhelming mentally. Don't skip any steps, and don't start in the middle. Just take small steps toward small goals, and each goal that you reach will build on itself.
And you're also a kind of a big believer in visualization, aren't you?
Well, you heard me talk about my little pictures that I draw. Yeah, I do that. You must visualize your success. You have to picture your movie in your mind every day. Wake up with it, go to bed with it, see the movie, and your ability to move past any negative obstacles to achieve your goal. Keep your eyes on the target of raising the money for your film, and you'll find yourself getting closer to it every single day. And then focus on your strengths. I think everybody has some unique skill or another, and you should put those skills first and use them first. You need to go out, build a team, and find the right people, the right affordable people, to do what you can't do.
Okay, but what if you don't know anybody, if nobody's around who shares your vision, and you just keep hitting that brick wall?
Look, this is very important. You're going to hear a lot of what I call negative noise from your family, from your friends and coworkers, none of whom have what it takes to make your movie, because if they did, they'd be doing it. That's why the only voice that you should ever listen to is the voice inside your head, the one that tells you that, yes, you are prepared. You have been prepared. Yes, you're ready, and you're confident in your ability to go out and raise the money for your film.
So Mark, you've obviously been listening to that voice, that inner voice, for a long time. How do you manage to do that?
I use what I call, sounds a little corny, but it works, the secrecy principle. And it's really quite simple. Just don't tell people what you're working on unless you want to invite their criticism, unless someone is a potential investor or a realistic source of financing for your film. There's really no point talking about it with anyone. Look, you don't need the approval of anyone to start raising the money for your project. All you're going to get from people you talk to about your project is a chorus of objections and reasons why you're being unrealistic in chasing a dream that they think is completely out of reach. So why should you be chasing it?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. That the negative noise you hear from everybody, that can really bring you down.
I can't tell you how many hundreds, probably thousands of people have told me time and time again that it was impossible to raise the level of money that I've raised to make my movies. And every one of those people was wrong, because that's exactly what I did over and over again. And I did it by ignoring what other people said and only listening to myself.
Okay, so we're going to ignore negative noise and negative people, and we're going to find those people who can really help us on the way to our goal.
Just remember, you're a filmmaker willing to take risks. Success requires risk.
True.
Your movie is a business. Success in business requires planning. Avoid negative noise and negative people, and your confidence will drive everything forward.
Okay, well, I'm pretty sure everybody here with us today has the confidence to move forward. That's why they're here. But there are a couple of tangible things anyone needs to get started, right?
The one thing you really need to have in place before you head out to raise your money for your movie is a script or screenplay. Since that's really your area of expertise, Bob, what's your experience in seeing the kinds of scripts that get financed?
Well, the work I've done, it's proven to me, you can't just write a good script. It has to be so good that if you enter it into any of the prestigious screenplay competition, it needs to rank in the top 5% of all entries. You may not agree with the feedback you get, but the feedback you get from the good screenplay competitions can be very valuable in improving your material. And I'm not here to teach you how to write your script, but you got to give some serious thought to the very specific elements in your script. And I think the first one is, what's the concept of your story? What's the movie about? It doesn't have to be like amazingly original or anything, but you do need to ask yourself the one very important question. Will people want to see this movie? You might have a personal message that nobody cares about. So be careful about devoting yourself to that. The other thing is your characters. Every character, I don't care if it's the good guy, the bad guy, the protagonist, the antagonist, whomever, even your secondary and third and tertiary characters, they all have to want something, and they have to want different things so you can bring these people into conflict, right? And conflict is what your story is actually about. It's what really drives the plot.
I think that's a really good baseline for starting point, because what you've just outlined speaks to the most critical element for investors in their mind, in their thinking, which is marketability. Remember, investors are always interested in a potential for profit and a return on their investment.
Yeah, there's that word profit, right? I mean, that's why people invest. So your script doesn't just need to be a good read. It has to have obvious commercial appeal, I think.
Here's a little secret that I have personally experienced over and over again about investors and the scripts that they finance. They rarely even read those scripts. Instead, what happens, they hold the script in their hand. They look at me and they say, "Tell me about it." That's your cue to pitch your story, but don't let yourself get bogged down in too many details, or you're going to be forced to explain every character, every line of dialogue, every plot point. You'll start to see your investors' eyes glaze over.
Boy, I can't tell you how many times I've made that mistake. As a writer of a script I believe in, though, sometimes I lose control and I feel the need to really tell the story in some detail, right?
Okay, but here's the reality. The vast majority of the investors, certainly the kind of investors that I go to who have never invested in a movie before, they've never ever read a script before. They want to hear the broad strokes. So the very last thing I want you to do is go out and have a conversation with them about your story.
Well, that's exactly what happens when you get involved in the Hollywood studio development process. And it's really one reason, I think, why so many really great scripts never get a green light to production.
That's why when you hear the words from the investor, "Tell me about it," you need to be ready with a great log line. We'll talk about log lines of your screenplay or script. And it needs to be memorized so you can present it as spontaneously and enticingly as possible. And as you know, Bob, a good log line isn't easy to come up with.
No, I don't believe they are. And matter of fact, I think log lines can be the most difficult writing of all because in a very short period of very few words, you need to sum up and capture the absolute essence of your movie in, I think, less than 50 words, two, three, maybe five sentences at most, because your log line really becomes the hook. And that's what makes your listener, whomever you're talking to, your investor, it makes them eager to know more about your movie. It's really the core of your whole pitch.
Between the two of us, Bob and I have probably pitched 1,000 different scripts and concepts. And the fewer words that we use in the pitch, the more successful we generally are.
Well, the funny thing is, I don't tell anybody this, but I've actually sold most of my projects with only one or two sentences. I know it sounds crazy, but producers love it because it makes them see the movie in 20 seconds. If it's a movie everybody wants to see, then everybody's happy. So, Mark, when we're talking about independent movies, the kind that you make so profitably, it's not always about the script then, is it?
No, it's really about building the team, creating your business plan. That's what the focus of the investor is going to be. Who are these people I'm giving my money to? Making sure that your fees are built into the budget is very important. What do I mean by that? Is if you're a writer, producer, director, there's three sources of fees, and you're going to capitalize on those fees, whether your movie is a success or not.
Each of those sources being you, the writer, you, the producer, you, the director, right?
Yes, or one of those three.
I see.
All of those three pay a reward within the budget of the film, even before the film is released. So you already have some income in your pocket. Making sure that your fees are built into the budget is critical. Researching your investors, know who they are. And the final thing that I really want to urge, because there's a lot of reason to bail out and go, I give up, is persistence. Never give up.
Well, you're certainly a very persistent guy. I happen to know. I've seen some of your work, and you've written, I don't know, multiple drafts of the same script before you even take it out to producers and investors. But, before we go on today, I want to remind everybody who's here that Mark's video course, it's 20 lessons. All 20 lessons of it are available at moneyforyourmovie.com. At moneyforyourmovie.com, you're going to find Mark's complete step-by-step process. He doesn't just talk it, he actually does it. And believe me, in his video course at moneyforyourmovie.com, he doesn't hold anything back. I was blown away when I first saw it. And just because, Mark's a very cool guy, as you can tell, and he knows that all of us today are dealing with inflation. Mark, you explain it. Go ahead and tell us what you have in mind.
I'm just like everybody else. Yesterday, I paid $6 a gallon to fill up my car. That hurts. So I know that inflation is hitting all of us. And certainly we're, creative artists, filmmakers. We're not fat cats with extra money. So it all matters. And that's why I'm cutting the price of Money for Your Movie video course by a full 55% throughout the end of the year. It's just because I can relate to people and I don't want to add to their problems.
It's 55%. That means, let me hang on a second. I'm going to do a little quick math here. That means that you're going to let people see your course for $79, right?
And you get the first lesson is absolutely free. You take a look, watch it. You'll see the quality and the value of the course.
You also told me before we started, you're even going to add some very special stuff for anybody who signs up for Money for Your Movie Guaranteed just this week, right?
Oh, that's right. Along with the complete video course, which is extremely detailed. Everything in my head about raising money is in that course. I send them a copy of the detailed business plan that I've used repeatedly to raise over $18 million for independent films I've done, as well as the spreadsheet of my top investor target list, along with their contact information.
Say that last sentence again. You're going to send the investor target list along with contact information?
That's right. Okay, I'm going to send the investors I've raised film with money from in the past, although I would highly recommend that investors, that everybody listening here stay very vigilant to all the other sources of investors they see in the news.
And you're sure about this 55% discount thing?
I'm just trying to help other people, other filmmakers get the money they need to make their vision a reality. And the best way I can do that is explained at moneyforyourmovie.com.
Wow. Okay. Well, Mark, you've given everybody here a lot to think about. And I'm looking at the screen. We have a lot of questions from folks on the webinar here. So if you don't mind, I'm going to throw them at you. And it's all in your hands. Let's see here. Well, Len has a question. He says, I have a slate of great films packaged with 50% finance promised. I'm finding it hard to get the other 50%. Would you help and come on board as a producer?
I don't really do that because I have too many requests to do that. Also, your passion is for your scripts and my passion is for my scripts. It's hard for me to get excited about your project. And if I do get excited about your project, well, where does your money go? I mean, I'm another guy. I'm taking a piece of your pie. Do you really want that? You really should, I think, study the course that we've created and keep the money for yourself rather than bring somebody in who's going to take a lion's share of it away.
Well, that's a great answer. I mean, you're so honest about it. And William has the same question. Would you consider joining other projects as a producer, partner, or board member? Well, I think you just spoke to that every time anybody brings anybody of your caliber on, you want your profits right up front. You're not there to ride the train. You're there to make the picture and make sure the picture makes money right off the bat. So here's a question. Thank you. My screenplay is finished as a semi-finalist at the Santa Barbara Screenplay Awards. Glad to hear it. You must have a good script because it's the Santa Barbara International Screenplay Awards, which I run with my wife, Suzanne Herrera McCullough. It's pretty rigorous. So to score as a semifinalist, it's a good script. So the question is, do you feel it's good enough to start trying to raise the money to produce it? Well, I think so. I mean, there's no point at which somebody needs to approve your script. It's up to you to determine whether or not your script is good enough to get out there and get in front of investors, right, Mark?
Well, absolutely. First of all, you need to determine, is there a commercial value? Is there a commercial hook? Is there a commercial allure of your script where you can sell your investor on the idea, hey, I've got this script. It's scored in this prestigious film festival by a prestigious professional writer. And now I want to go out and raise money for making it because I have high confidence in this story. It's going to make a lot of money because... And you need to have those answers and to sell this investor on the reasons why you think you're going to connect with a broad audience and make a lot of money with their investment.
Well, we have a lot of questions here today. Here's kind of a generic question from Patricia. How do you find those investors?
Quite easy, actually. And when I first started, I had the newspaper and I had magazines and television was my source. I would stay vigilant. I was like radar, talk about this person with their $30 million yacht, or they just built 3 hotels, or this guy owns 55 shopping centers. And those were my key targets. I would trigger people I learned about on sources of media like magazines and newspapers. Well, here comes the internet. You just use your little finger and you punch some buttons, and where do I find people that want to invest in films? I want to find independent investors that aren't associated with hedge funds or whale or whatever. And boom, here comes the big list. It's the power of the internet in finding investors is bottomless. You can find every category, every type, international, domestic, all based in California, all based in Massachusetts, all based in Arizona. It's amazing what you can get done with the internet right now. It is totally a shortcut to finding investors.
And Patricia has a question that I can answer. She says, where do we get a list of screenplay competitions and sources? Well, I would start with the Santa Barbara International Screenplay Awards or the Wiki Screenplay Contest if you want really fast answers. Otherwise, a simple Google search, just type in screenplay contests and you'll get a list you can't believe. But be very careful, and this really is a little bit off topic. There are an awful lot of screenplay contests out there that they just want your money. And I would always keep this in mind. Would you take advice from anybody who hasn't actually done it before? If that answer is yes, that's the wrong answer. I would never take advice from anybody who doesn't actually have credits and a real history. That's really why Mark's video course is so powerful. He has done it. He does it. He's still doing it. I know that Monday he has an entire call sheet ready to go with investors he's reaching out to on his current project. So when you're dealing with Mark or the contest that I'm involved in, you're dealing with people who've actually done it before. So be very careful about that. What is, let's see. Walter wants to know, is there a coupon code for the website? No, there isn't. Just go to the website, moneyforyourmovie.com, and you'll see that 55% discount is already applied. And you can actually start the course for $79.50. The course is such a value, I can't even tell you, particularly when you're getting Mark's business plan and you're getting his list of investor targets. I mean, that alone is worth 10 times what you're paying for it. And I just think I wouldn't be talking about it if I didn't really believe in it. And I believe in it because I've seen Mark do it constantly. I'm not amazed anymore because I now see the process, Now, Bernadette has a long question here. Would you consider helping writers directly with scripts and development by shopping their materials to these private investors interested in funding or securing partners? Well, you've already answered that as well. You're working on your own stuff, right, Mark? I mean, you don't really have time to take everybody's project. That would make it impossible for you to make your movies.
Well, people, you've come up with derivatives of that same question 3 times now. I have other projects. I have partners that have come to me. I have liked their projects. I am involved. I do have a slate of work, including my own projects and a few other people's projects that I'm partnered into, that I'm throwing myself into. We all live the same lives. We only have so many hours in the day. We can only get so much done. And the problem is when you pile on too much, you just get scattered and diffused and you don't really focus. Remember, the focus of my project is believe in what you're doing, focus on it, never give up, and pursue it till you succeed. And I've done that every single time. It might take 2 weeks. It might take 6 months, but you can get it done.
That's the voice of experience, right, Mark? I mean, you and I have both chased things down rabbit holes for years. And what we've discovered is you can't do everything. You can only do what you are passionately involved in and you're really responsible for yourself. I think one of the things I want to say to everybody is Mark is available to help you help yourself. And really one of the best places to find a helping hand, as the cliche goes, is at the end of your arm. You need to do this for yourself, right? And Patricia asks, where do you get a list of screenplay? Where do you get a list of investors? Well, the list of investors is what Mark will send you when you sign up for the video course. Moneyforyourmovie.com. You're going to get so much more than you can imagine. Patricia asks again, good question, Patricia. What do you think of crowdfunding, Mark?
Oh, I think it's a good idea. I've never used it. I've never had to use it. Honestly, I don't like crowds. This sounds really hyper-focused. I look for one investor. I look for an investor that will write me a check for the entire movie. I go for people who have exorbitant wealth, and I know that they have the capacity. Hey, they're going to pay it to tax anyway, so why don't they make a movie with it? And you give them that idea, you can do your tax write-off as a film investment instead. I don't really like dealing with huge amounts of people. I have been the general partner of a limited partnership. I've had 70 investors in one of my movies. That's 70 people that you got to babysit through the entire process. When you have 1, 2, or 3 investors, which normally I do in my projects, it becomes a lot more manageable keeping those 3 people happy.
So, Mark, I can't thank you enough for your time. And I want to thank everybody for coming to the webinar. You're obviously a serious filmmaker. And if you are, if you really want to get off the dime of, gee, I want to make my movie, if you really want the funding and start looking for your cast and crew and really get the ball rolling, I'm just telling you, moneyforyourmovie.com. You'll get resources you've never dreamed of. And Mark is the real deal. All right, everybody, go make a movie.